Getting started as a necro, I'm going to focus on travel, but first you need to get some gear from the vendors. A teleport staff and resistance gear from Nightmare Charcy with a PvP portal. It'll only take a few minutes. You just hover over the purple items and pretty soon you'll have something like this for both the helm and the chest slot. Now to get a bit of a magic find going, you're gonna Larsec the helm and pray for 2 sockets, topuses. You pair this with 3 summon wand, a topus craft belt, and resistance on the other slots. Maybe you'll have 1 or 2 cast rate items just to hit a little breakpoint to help you a bit with cursing. As for the build, whatever build you used in the playthrough, I recommend going for skele mages into revives. It's the quickest build for souling, but if you have a good group you could go clay golems from the start. But my initial farming spec is going to be clay golems with revives. My rotation on this build is Travancore and then reviving the Hydras, and use those to hit Blood Raven for terror keys. Some early upgrades you want. Ideally you want a wealth chest as soon as possible, as your resistances allow it, for more gold find especially, but also the magic find. The gold find will help you get orbs for mapping later, and it'll also help you recharge the teleport staff you're using for Blood Raven runs. The pathing in Cold Plains is such that the exit to burial grounds is always on the road that leads to a corner. You can probably find some speedrunner guides that explains how to look for this, but it's quite straightforward once you get it. As you can see, she dies very fast to the Council Hydras even with only +3 skills. Going into maps on a summon spec, there are several ways to do it. You could stick to the Clay Golem revive combo and just use Act 5 Minotaur revives. You could also do this build and go more or less full skeleton, no archers but mage focused. You have the melee skeletons, the mage skeletons, and then you have double curse and the remaining points in low resist. This build you're using Grimm's Burning Dead. It's a little difficult to pull off in the beginning because you lose your shield slot, So to have magic find and risk covered, you basically need some sockets. You might invest in a good rolled one and just p-box it and stuff some random resistance jewels in there to fix your gaps. You can see I have decent magic find here because I build around a Scholar's Ire. Another option could be Talrash's Chests. You lose +1, but you gain a lot of res, which makes filling the gaps easier on the other slots. I'm targeting 30 cast rate here just to make double cursing a bit more smooth. I invested in Faith for this setup. I think it's worth doing just to ramp up your mapping speed. Even if you're not going to use Faith later, you can just sell it. If you want to get away from the summoner gameplay as fast as possible, you will just need a few pieces to play Teeth. First and foremost, you want a 3 PNB amulet. You want a decent splendor base like this one, ideally 3 teeth, 2 bone spear, 3 bone spear. You want a white wand. You can shop this base with 3 teeth at Drognen in Act 2 normal, and then Larsak it for 2 sockets. Then you ideally want a smoke, unless you have decent enough risk gear to pull off the blue chest. And then you want a few more FCR items, so you can ideally get to 75 FCR, but 50 works alright. Skills are very straightforward. You go with the bone skills, teeth, bone spear, and synergies. Now, depending on the bases you have in terms of Splinter and White, you might start off with using more Bone Spear, but if you have Teeth, plus 3 Teeth on both, your damage should be high enough with Teeth that it will be your main skill. I like to go 1 point revive to get 3 meat shields, then obviously 1 blood warp, 1 golem mastery. For chaos runs, you obviously want a Nash staff offhand to save you a lot of time, but you can get started with the magic teleport staff. My favorite necro build in PD2 is Corpse Explosion. Now to get going with it in maps, you really want a Trank set in my opinion. Paired with, yet again, a white Runeward Wand in a +3 CE base, which you can shop again at Drognen in Act 2 normal. You might use Silkweave to help with mana sustain, but you can also go for Magifying Boots. Skills are very straightforward. Corpse Explosion synergies. 1 point Golem Mastery. Remaining points in Blood Warp for lower cooldown. For endgame Corpse Explosion, there's different ways you can combine things. The main thing is trying to hit the 125 cast rate breakpoint, which means you'll need a lot of cast rate slams usually. In this case I'm using Death Swept, which was a common choice in the past, but I think you can quite easily outperform it with a crafted wand now, as long as you can make up the life and mana sustain elsewhere. Dungos is not necessary, it just depends on how defensive, offensive you like to play and which maps you prefer to play. You definitely have a much easier time reaching the cast rate breakpoint using a rack. Mana life per kill also depends a bit on which maps you prefer to run. Here's a showcase of Endgame teeth. Note this character is on closed beta. I'm missing the +1 skill slams, which means a lot of power on this build since it doesn't use facets. The gear setup is quite straightforward. Bone Shade, Shaco, +3, +4, maybe a crafted amulet. I like Q Higgins for the chest slot for the mana per kill. Bone Flame, Silk Wave. In this case I'm using Constricting Loops since I don't have the FCR slams. or endgame skeleton summon necro, there's different ways you can do it. Especially when it comes to how you distribute the skills. In this build I have gone for 10 curse mastery for double curse, max the amplify with 1 point decrep, 1 point desecrate to revive skeletons, 1 point bone armor, max skeleton mastery, max mages, max archers, 1 point blood warp, and the remaining points into skeleton warrior. This is a hardcore edition of the green goblin build. Instead of using Templars and Phoenix, I'm using Enigma and Bone Flame for safety. There's different ways you can build this. One aspect of it is how much cast rate you like to use. Here I'm using 75, which is a bit of a stretch. You can probably do fine with 50 or maybe even 30 in some instances. With Bone Flame you could go max block if you build around Titan's Grip and block slams, or you could even build around Homunculus for max block. Here I'm using chance cards to help with my gold sustain, so I can never have to buy orbs. For the mercenary I'm running a full purgatory setup. I'm not sure Innocence is worth using anymore. You just lose too much damage.